Well, my wife was going to take my son and daughter to go visit my sister-in-law, and she knew that I was going to be bored if I went with her, so she suggested that I go out with one of my buddies and do something so I can get out of the house and have some fun. So I contacted my friend Ron, who was also a retired policeman, and I asked him, I said, hey, do you want to go camping and hiking? He goes, yeah, sure. So we loaded up the trucks and we went into the Santa Cruz Mountains, where Ron had the knowledge of the area, and he also knew a good place to set up camp. So we went up in there and parked and unloaded our gear and stuff and set up camp. Ron said that there was a pond that was east of the location where we were. And he said that wildlife used to go there all the time, and they used to go there to drink, so it'd be a good place to view some wildlife. So I said, okay, I'm going to go hike up the trail and see what I could see. So I got my binoculars and I started hiking up the trail from the campground. And as I was getting close, I was hiking eastbound on the trail, and I was getting close to the lake. But then before I got there, I noticed that there was a meadow down below where I was hiking. And I noticed a movement in the meadow. And I said, oh, this is interesting. And this is between 5 and 6 o'clock in the evening. It started to get dusk. I took my binoculars out and I looked down in the meadow, and I saw a large mule deer that had been taken down by 2 wolves. And these were very large wolves. And as I'm looking at this through the binoculars, it hit me, and I thought, wait a minute. There's no wolves in California. There haven't been timber wolves in California for decades. The only wolves in California that are still here are the Mexican red wolf that's down in San Diego County, and that's seen very rarely. But there they were, 2 large black wolves eating on this deer carcass. And I said, well, I'm going to get closer and try to get a better look at these. So I started going further up the trail and saw this large pine tree that I thought would be a good advantage to watch them. And I got behind the pine tree, and as I did so, I stepped on a branch, and it went crack. And it alerted the creatures down in the meadow, because they brought their heads up and they're looking around. And I said, oh, crap, so all of a sudden, to my horror, one of them actually stood up on his hind legs. I almost crapped right there. It was huge. It was about 7 feet tall, and both of the creatures were covered in black, silver-tipped hair all over the bodies. They both had large, black, bushy tails. The one that stood up was just huge, had big, huge chest. But then I noticed that the legs were man-like. They were not dog-like at all. Large and muscular. Had very long arms, not paws, had arms. Man-like hands that had claws coming out the edge of the hands. I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's a werewolf. That's the only thing that came to mind that registered at the time. It was sniffing the air, trying to, I think, locate where I was, and it was growling. I could hear it growl. And I could actually see with my binoculars the blood of the deer on its muzzle, and had ears on the top of its head, just like a wolf. And like I said, I've been an outdoorsman my entire life, hunter, hiker. I know what the animals of the forest look like. I've never seen anything like this before, ever. And standing on its legs like that, I was terrified. And I actually got my weapon out, my off-duty weapon, and I put it down to my right side. And Ron started coming up the trail behind me. And I told him, I said, hey, be quiet. Get your binoculars out and look down in there and tell me what you see. So he got up to my location, and he took his binoculars out, and he looked down in there, and he said, what the is that? I said, what do you think that is? I said, that's a couple of werewolves. I said, they took down that deer buck, and they were eating it when I came up on them. And all of a sudden, as we're talking, the creature took 2 steps toward us. And I said, oh, crap. That's when I knew that it had honed in on us, and it was actually looking at me and Ron. And I told Ron, I said, get your gun out. I said, put it down to your side. And Ron did that, and the creature was growling, and you could hear it. It was like echoing through the meadow. The other creature never got up. It just continued to eat on the deer carcass, but it would lift its head up once in a while to see what was going on. And I guess it was just extra hungry and didn't take an interest in us, since the other one was. And then when he did that, when he took 2 steps toward us, we got in a ready position to open fire if he came any closer to us. And I actually told Ron, if he takes one more step towards us, we're going to light him up. And Ron said, okay. So we're out there and we've got our guns pointed directly at it, and it's staring directly at us. And the anger and the hate in this creature's eyes, you could just feel it, okay? And I'm scared, okay? I'm not scared of much, but I'm scared. The back of my neck and the hairs on my arms are just standing straight up. And all of a sudden, for no unknown reasons, they both turned their heads and they looked westward. I don't know what was out there that got their attention. If they got signaled by somebody, I don't know. And then the one that was standing got back on all fours. The other one was already on all fours, and they ran across the meadow and then into the forest to the north of the meadow and out of sight. And then Ron looked at me and he said, let's get that out of here. And I said, yes. So we didn't walk. We ran back to the camp, packed it up, got the stuff in the truck, and we got out of there. And on the way out, down the trail, we actually heard a loud wolf howl, and I think it was probably about a quarter mile away. I'm guessing distances. As we drove out, we got out of there and we went home. And that was my encounter.